make them close that door. We got to make them close that door. Everybody, don't want no nukes no more. Don't want no nukes no more. Don't want no nukes no more. We got to make them close that door. Got to make them close the door. Don't want no nukes. Thank you.
This rally here is the first major rally after the Harrisburg accident. And it was an accident, not an incident. There will be other rallies all over the country as more people who never had an opinion on atomic energy join those of you who have been working to stop this technological Vietnam right here in this country. You will see that as a result of the 3 Mile Island accident and the conveying of the perils of nuclear power to tens of millions of Americans, you will see people coming out to join you, young and old, Democrats and Republicans, conservatives and liberals. They will come to join you because this is an issue that crosses all ideological, all political, all economic, all class lines. Plutonium does not discriminate according to race, color, creed, or sex. Never before has a national issue been subject to such condemnatory studies, reports. The problem of nuclear leakage, spills, the problem of plutonium, cesium, strontium, the problem of Rocky Flats, of West Valley, New York, of Harrisburg, the problem of uranium tailings in Colorado and New Mexico, the problem of earthquake faults in Diablo Canyon. We should never tolerate the misleading statements that are coming out of Mr. Schlesinger and Mr. Carter and other government officials who are trying to persuade us that it's either nuclear or coal, or that it's either nuclear or imported oil. It's none of those. It's either nuclear or slashing down on our waste of energy. It's either nuclear or solar. It's either nuclear or geothermal. It's either nuclear or gas. It's either nuclear or waste wood. It's either nuclear or gasohol. There are all kinds of alternatives to nuclear, but they are not all under the subject of monopoly corporate power.
The solution is to municipalize PG&E, to socialize all energy sources. Basically, the solution is to smash capitalism, but that's a little far-reaching. And we don't even have to do that just to clean up the environment. We can even do that within capitalism to a great extent.
Do you think the United States should develop more nuclear power?
Certainly.
You do?
Vaguely, yes.
Considering what happened in Pennsylvania this week?
That doesn't really, I really don't care about that, I guess.
Why not?
Because it's not necessarily a scientific catastrophe, I suppose. If no one dies.
Well, but they don't detect cancers for about 10 years after people are irradiated.
Perhaps then they shouldn't. Very convincing.
Do you think the United States should develop more nuclear power?
That's a touchy question right now.
Because of what happened in Pennsylvania?
Not necessarily so. I feel as a whole it's a touchy question. I think everything is par for the course.
What does that mean?
That means simply that it makes no difference what the individual thinks. They already have set it up what they're going to do anyhow.
You mean you don't think you have any say in the matter?
Absolutely, that's right.
For 6.5 years, I've tried to work within the system as a county supervisor. At this point, I'm at the point where I believe all of our legislative remedies have been exhausted. The system has failed to respond. It's failed to save our coast. It's inflated us out of our homes. And it's failed to protect us from nuclear radiation.
I gave people documents of presidential lies, and they couldn't believe it in those days without documents. But I couldn't do the job of educating them that Richard Nixon did by standing in front of them on a television, lying them, looking right in the eye. Harrisburg is doing the same. People like Jim Schlesinger and the other officials of the agencies are showing people how ill we are served and that we have to be responsible for our own lives here. We can't count on the people we've elected or appointed to protect us from the mess they're making.
In 1976, 11 people crossed the boundary lines of Pacific Gas and Electric at Diablo Canyon and were arrested. Those 11 people served time in jail. In 1977, I guess it was 45 people because we don't count the 2 police informants. We started out with 47, crossed the boundary lines of PG&E's Diablo Canyon facility and were arrested, and some spent time in jail. In 1978, 487 people crossed that boundary line. And what we're asking you to do is to continue to show that the people have the power, that we have the power to not let Diablo Canyon go online.
Well, I ain't going down that nuclear road no more. I said I ain't going down that nuclear road no more. Ain't gonna find me living next to no reactor core. And we can get it from the sun. I said we got to take the power and get it from the sun. We don't need no utility company, darling, to tell us how it's done. Take it, John.
What's wrong is that one of the things wrong is that there's no way of disposing of the high-level nuclear wastes.
This thing is crazy. A pound of plutonium can kill everybody on the planet itself. And Diablo Canyon is going to make 1,000 pounds a year.
It's probably the most serious threat to the genetic chain and to life on the planet that has ever been posed.
Struggle for the legal tender, where the sirens sing and the church bells ring and the junk man pounds the spender.
I think that Diablo Canyon is the next focal issue, the next one that can really be a rallying point for the movement.
That's true.
We stop this one, and they're not going to keep building them, you know? They're not going to keep taking a $1.5 billion chance, you know, that they won't be able to open it.
Baby, we'll go. Baby, we'll disappear. It's nothing we don't know. It's just that we don't want to care.
So basically what we're here to tell you is that we need your help to get a message across, because it is really deadly, it's really scary, and it affects everybody here and all our kids and our kids' kids. And it's no joke, you know.
What we have to do is see that nothing happens here that would make the planet come to a big grinding halt in terms of human life.
Don't want your nuclear power, people. We're here to tell you so. I don't need no nuclear power, and we're all here to tell the world so. And you know we won't stop fighting till we shut down Diablo. off the ground. All he needs is my loving, and you know it likes to melt him down. Norton, go get one.
KPFA just announced and confirmed the report that San Onofre reactor just been shut down. And that's because of 2 leaks that they found. They weren't radioactive leaks, which is the way we want it, you know, but shut it down just the same. And also there's going to be a demonstration down there on the 21st to make sure it stays shut down. So that's the 21st of April. If you know anybody in Southern California, if you can get there yourself, try to get there.
I was working on nuclear weapons plans 20 years ago. In fact, I wrote the Kennedy guidelines for the strategic war plans of the United States in '61. I was as much against nuclear weapons then as I am now.
We've all been conspiring for years to warn the people of this world of the threat of radioactivity before there was a major accident. Well, we failed at that, but there's a lot of failure left, which will be achieved if we don't keep at this. There hasn't been a meltdown yet. There hasn't been a nuclear war yet. The officials of this world, for trying to warn people, have thrown us in jail, sent tear gas at us, and put us on probation. But after Harrisburg, the world can see it's those officials who are on probation. We are free. President Jimmy Carter is on probation. Brezhnev is on probation. Governor Browne, on his vacation, is on probation. I think James Schlesinger has used up his parole, actually, on this. And it's up to us, April 29th at Rocky Flats, May 5th at Livermore, to be there to watch them on their probation until they join us in freeing this world from the mess they've made and the threat of radioactivity.
The issue now is political. We were told in 1976 by candidate Jimmy Carter that he would never lie to us and never deceive us. You remember he called atomic energy the last resort. You remember he called solar energy and conservation of energy the first resort. Well, after watching him for almost 2.5 years, can we conclude other than he has deceived us? Has he deceived us? Has he lied to us? You remember what he told us when he raised those words? He said that if he ever deceives us and if he ever lies to us, he wants us to vote against him. It's no longer Mr. Schlesinger who's responsible. It is now Jimmy Carter himself.
What is it? Just another link in the chain, in the chain. Just another link in the chain, in the chain. It's the truth growing stronger, the voices speaking louder. That makes us links in the chain. Yes, they were willing to go ahead when other people were afraid. Remembered by the questions that they raised. And it's that kind of chain reaction that can stop Diablo Canyon. It's just another link in the chain. Here we go.
Do you think the United States should continue to develop nuclear power?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because it's a threat to all of humanity. Look at this current leak.
Where did you find out your information? How do you know that it's a threat to all humanity?
I found it out, in the 50s when we learned about fallout and radiation and what it does to human bones. I mean, the protest has been going on for a long time, hasn't it? 20 years or so. The irony of that.
Do you think we should do away with all nuclear plants?
Yes. An unequivocal yes.
So how do we meet our energy needs?
Well, I mean, there's been talk about, everybody knows about alternate energy sources.
Do you think the United States should continue to develop nuclear power?
Well, I think so, yes.
You think it's safe?
Well, that I don't know, but I think we need it. Safe or not.
You mean you're willing to undergo the risks?
I'm willing to go along with the risk, yes.
You know what happened in Pennsylvania?
Oh, I know all about it. I've been reading about it.
You're willing to take that risk, huh? That radiation might float over a town?
Well, let's hope that it doesn't happen, but if you don't take that risk, you'll have to take the other risk of in case of a war,
Well, we're talking about peaceful nuclear energy.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. We're going to need it.
I mean, you'd rather have nuclear energy than a depression, huh?
Well, I don't like depression, no. Who wants depression? I was in the last one, in 1930 or something, And I know what depression is. You don't have a depression now.
I think the United States should develop more nuclear power.
No, I don't.
Why not?
Well, because the dangers that have been happening from it, I think their solar power might be the best way to go at the moment. Just doesn't seem like nuclear power has all the kinks out of it yet.
You think we should continue to work on it?
I think working on it, yes, but not by having it in largely populated areas or, maybe somewhere out in the desert somewhere they can work on it, but not around populations.
Let the desert get irradiated, huh?
Well, it's better than, populations of people getting irradiated.
Maybe. How do you know?
Well, you don't know. That's true.
The other question is, if you had to choose between an economic depression and nuclear power, which would you choose?
Well, I guess right now you choose nuclear power.
You, not me. Which would you choose?
Well, if it would be a tremendous economic depression, I would choose nuclear power over it. Because I think a huge economic depression might do more harm than nuclear power would.
But you can't be sure. We've recovered from economic depressions before.
That's true. We have. Well, I'm not an expert on nuclear power, so.
Well, I think more energy is needed, but nuclear power definitely has the problem what to do with the waste. And one quip, one off-the-wall answer I once heard was to put it all on a rocket and send it towards the sun, which is a nuclear bomb in itself. And we certainly have rockets which are capable of going to the sun with nuclear waste. But I think that the real nexus of the problem is not nuclear power, but power itself. It's another form of power. Gasoline power, windmill power, the power of water turning a mill by a pond and so forth. All these developments of power lead to a overcharged karma.
What's your name?
My name is Raven.
The question, Raven, is what do you think of nuclear power?
It's probably a disaster on this planet. The chances of killing people en masse by having nuclear energy leak out of the existing plants. I have a lot of friends that are with NASA and were with the Atomic Energy Commission, and they tell me that most of the plants that they worked in and most of the systems that they worked around were unsafe, and that they leak anyway, and that the chances of them leaking more and really just wiping people out, being picked up in clouds, and carried along and dumped back, leaking into the ground, soaking into the ground in the open dumps that they have, getting into the artesian water system, coming back up in other areas where bedrock makes springs happen on the surface of the ground, and
So the risks aren't worth it at all.
I really don't think they are. There's so many alternatives that aren't being sought after because they've already started and they've already initiated through the existing commissions and so on.
If you had to choose between an economic depression and nuclear power, which would you choose?
I would choose a depression.
It's been estimated by the State Energy Commission that California has something like 40,000 megawatts of wind power untapped. You can compare the wind to be an ocean of air, of which we are fish. We're fish in the bottom of the ocean of air. And the ocean of air continually moves into California because of the heating of the land masses. If we could tap into just a fraction of that energy, I think it's clear what that would mean in terms of new energy for the country and the state. AeroPower, which is our company, is part of a larger complex called Earth Lab 1. And we're dedicated, and our facility is dedicated toward building planetary communities powered by natural energy. To answer the Exxon ad for all the television viewers, what do you do when the wind dies down? You use the batteries. This is still the most inexpensive way to make electricity using natural energy.
Wind power powered our nation's farms in 1920. Are we to say that we can't use the same wind in 1980? We have massive amounts of harvest waste and plant life that could be used for liquid fuel as well as for combustion. Not to mention the sunlight and other forms of solar energy like thermal differences in ocean depth. Solar energy is here. It can be here in a big way if we as consumers demand it through a national political force. And part of that demand involves the abolition of nuclear power once and for all.
One of the advantages of windmills is you can make them on small production lines in any city in California. You can get several thousand megawatts of wind power online in only 1 year. With a solar power plant, you can get it online in 4 years. Compare this with nuclear, where it sometimes takes 10 or more years. So we should be doing it in order to obtain the energy we need for running microphones like this, for operating our television stations, for running our hi-fis. We need electrical energy, and we should be getting this energy by means of these new low-technology techniques.
It is simply real. There's a way out. There are alternatives to nuclear energy. The Campaign for Economic Democracy has been working for 2.5 years with Governor Browne, with the Energy Commission and the state legislature to first of all create the SolarCal agency, which has happened. Tom Hayden is on the board along with other people that are very, very good and responsible to draw up a plan, which has been done, to solarize all of California. It will happen. It will happen. It is not a battle of technology, because the technology exists. The oil companies don't tell you that. The utilities don't tell you that. And they won't really actively work for solar energy unless they can monopolize it, unless they can monopolize the manufacture of solar collectors, so that when you want to solarize your home, you have to rent from the utilities, who then install a meter in your home and meter the amount of sunlight you use, and then can raise the cost of sunlight to the price that OPEC sets oil at. For a democratic, commonsensical energy program is not a struggle of technology. It is a political struggle. It is a struggle against big oil and utility monopolies. We have made one major inroad into that problem when we achieved a little over a year ago, a bill which was passed the legislature, which said that the utilities cannot become involved in solar manufacture unless the Public Utility Commission, after investigation, determines that it will neither monopolize nor curtail competition in the solar industry. That's very, very important. Anyone who tells you that we cannot have solar energy, you should say to them to look to Israel. 1 out of every 4 homes in Israel is solarized. The Israeli engineers have turned the Dead Sea into a solar catch basin, which provides energy for large, large areas, for many, many people. We can do it in California. We can do it in the country.
We fought 10 years to end the war in Vietnam, but we did it. And we can make nuclear power obsolete because we have no choice Because if we don't make it obsolete, it will make us obsolete.
And will the breezes blow the petals from your hand? And will some loving ease your pain? And will this silence drive confusion from your soul? And will the swallows come again?
I think that a lot of people never gave themselves enough credit for the actions that took place against the war in Vietnam and our participation in that war, and somehow felt undercut at the end of those 10 years as though we really hadn't made a difference. So we did, you know, and it started off much smaller than this, actually. I mean, this is really extraordinary and only a beginning, but vitally important that you be heard.
Nader said we're already dead and it's too late. I've got to disagree. We're just starting to stop these mothers. We're not dead yet, don't worry. If God had meant us to have nuclear reactors, this sign says, she would have given us lead-lined skin. We're giving awards for the best signs later. Various causes that have gone through the 70s, but I must say that this is the most potentially exciting one for me, because it's a way to mobilize and politicize the rock community, which I think for too long has been too hedonistic and self-absorbed, and more interested in spending money for purposes that I don't consider to be very valuable. You know, I'll be real excited to see more and more benefits going on, and people turning the money and attention back to where it belongs, which is, I mean, entertainment is fine, but it's entertainment with a little bit of social education and conscience behind it is the best thing in the world. I mean, Jane Fonda proved that.
The lessons of both the film The China Syndrome and what happened in Pennsylvania is very, very clear, and it not only applies to the nuclear industry, but to the whole of our economy. As long as you have corporate executives and utility executives responsible for public safety, health, and interest, we're not going to have any health and safety. We're not going to have the interests of the average citizen spoken for, because the financial interests of these corporate executives is in conflict with your welfare and your interest. There is no question. I have learned this in the process of researching and filming the China Syndrome, and it has been corroborated in everything that's happened in Pennsylvania. From their putting the plant online sooner than it should have gone in line in order to get a tax break, to threatening workers who protested the unsafe conditions with being fired. And it's not particular or unique to Pennsylvania. Time and time again, they prefer to maximize their profits, putting the plants online, playing down the dangers in order to make more money. And Let us take heed with what almost happened.
I mean, that's why people come out here today, because you know that waiting and kind of crossing your fingers and hoping PG&E's people are going to be nice guys. And I'm sure they're all nice guys in their homes and with their children. But what they're up to in the building of that treacherous stuff, it may cost us all our lives. But the closer you are to having your life invested in that paycheck, the less you're going to see.
The attractiveness of atomic energy on rational grounds is zero to these third world countries. To the extent that it has any appeal in these third world countries, it's because people in the third world countries want nuclear weapons faster, or because they say if it's safe enough for Americans, it's safe enough for us. Well, if Americans show that A, it is not safe for Americans, and B, that they will not permit their country to be used as a mechanism of proliferating nuclear weapons, that'll be the end of nuclear exports by Westinghouse and General Electric.
The rallies that took place in Australia received the message of solidarity from the Abalone Alliance. I would like to convey to this group here the solidarity and the support of the Australian movement against uranium mining. We can win.
No more nukes! 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 You to help stop the uranium mining in this country. Stop the uranium mining in this country. Stop the abuse of and the exploitation of the Indian lands. We are here. We have a responsibility on Mother Earth to protect Mother Earth. We must now utilize all of the resources that we have. Not only should President Carter, and I want to say to the many people here, gathered here, who signed names on petitions asking Governor Browne to deny extradition of myself back to South Dakota. He saved by denying extradition, by listening to your petitions, and by investigating the atrocities that are going on in prisons. He saved my life. And I want to ask him now, I want to ask Governor Browne now if he would save the lives of our future children, of our future generations. PG&E has a long history of its entanglement of Indian affairs just north of us. It has, for many years, been ripping off the Indian people on the Pitt River. And I want to say that as long as I have the chance to breathe clean air, I will stop the nuclear production in this country. I will stop any kind of plant that is unsafe to the environment, unsafe to our future generations.
Another advantage of wind and solar is that it is distributed. That means that every city can own its own solar power plant if it chooses to do so. It means that every Indian tribe can build and own its own solar power plant on its own reservation. It doesn't have to have its ground torn up for oil exploration, for oil shales, for nuclear, or for strip mining for coal. There's no need for our government to be stealing any more land from the Indians.
The uranium dust, the fine dust, is blowing across the reservation lands and is causing cancer, lung cancer. And near Edgemont, South Dakota, for example, the cancer there is 2 times as high as the rest of the state. There are 3 million pounds of uranium tailings left there to destroy the world, left there to destroy the Indian people.
Don't ever underestimate the power of this industry and the power of the Schlesingers and the power of the Department of Energy to go with atomic energy all the way over the brink. We have to make sure that the lesson that was learned in Pennsylvania is a lesson that will be impossible to learn again. As the citizens who demonstrated last week in West Germany against the nuclear plant put it, you remember what they said? What they said was, we all live in Pennsylvania.
What are you selling here?
Geiger counters. Actually, they're radiation survey meters. They're government surplus.
Government surplus radiation meters. And are you selling many?
Oh yeah, I've sold quite a few. In fact, the business is picking up right now. This last hour, people have been coming by all day saying, I'll come back at 5 o'clock. So I'm going to be real busy in the next half hour or so.
Do you feel like these anti-nuclear speeches are doing promotion for you?
Well, no, it's the other. It's
telling
the other
people they need a radiation counter.
No, it's the other way around. I'm selling radiation counters because I think people need them.
Because plutonium is forever. Plutonium is forever. Plutonium is forever. Plutonium is forever. One more time. Plutonium is forever.
You're the Grim Reaper.
Sure.
The Grim Reaper now has an atom around the skull.
Because nuclear power is random mass murder.
You know that, Mr. Death, huh?
I know it very well. It comes in terms of genetic mutations, increased cancer, increased leukemia, those sorts of things. It'll take a little while, but it'll be here.
Okay, thanks. Or I mean, no thanks.
Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing I can hold on to. Believing this living is just a hard way to go.
This country has abundance in energy, abundance of intelligence, abundance of creative and decentralized technology. What it needs is an abundance of citizen power.
I got a lot of this morning, baby. How do you reckon it, got a little this morning. How do you reckon it said, hurry, get down to San Francisco. A nuclear power's dead. I ain't got no special right here. Got no special right here. Ain't got nobody to love and feel my care.
Atomic energy must become a prime political issue in the national elections in 1980. It can become that issue. What it requires is each and every one of us to resolve to commit time, energy, and mobility to spreading the word, to developing coalitions at the local, state, regional, national levels, and to tell the political powers in Washington and state capitals that no longer can they look the other way and not take a stand. That for once in their lives, they've got to take a stand. They've got to take a stand against the giant utility monopolies They have to take a stand against General Electric and Westinghouse. They have to take a stand against this colossal technological mistake that has plagued the country for a generation. That then is the crux of the issue, is it not? It's either energy that we control or energy that Exxon controls.
We have to take power back from the special interest groups who now dominate our cities and our state and our country, from the corporate executives and the big banks, and put the power and the decision-making process into the hands of people like you. Average people, small farmers, small businessmen, young people, elderly people, environmentalists, community representatives, working people, have to be put in charge of where our country is going, of the decisions that really affect our lives more than any other, whether we can work, at what wages, in what conditions, whether we're going to be killed on the job, as over 100,000 people are every year killed because of industrial accidents. We have to put an end to the cancer epidemic, which has resulted from the pollution of industry, of our environment. Even the National Cancer Institute and the World Health Organization says 80% of all human cancer is caused by industrial pollution, which could be stopped if instead of only dealing with trying to find a cancer cure, we started dealing with cancer prevention, and instead of token fines for the corporate executives who were responsible for it, we put them in jail. They are guilty of murder. They are guilty of murder. It's the workers who get it first, the workers in the steel plants and the rubber plants and the petrochemical industries and the steel yards and the farm workers who were sprayed with pesticides and the sprays in Humboldt County. If the workers get it first, but let's not fool ourselves. It spreads out into the community, first to the people who live closest to the plants, and then to the community at large, even to the industrialists themselves. That's the strange irony of our system. They're even poisoning themselves, and we must stop it. And it's no longer a question of liberal morality or do-goodism. It is a question of life or death.
Do you think the United States should continue to develop nuclear power?
No.
Why not?
Because I think it's dangerous for the whole world.
What makes you believe that?
From what I read in the papers and what I hear on the radio and television, what I see on television, I think they should abolish it in all countries.
If you had to choose between an economic depression and nuclear power, which would you choose?
Economic depression.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'd rather go through that than the risks.
I went through one already, and it wasn't too bad.
You survived anyway, huh?
Survived, yeah. At least I'm alive. That's a good way of looking at it, right?
Right.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
They say now that the nuclear industry is proven safe because no one has died. Let them count the fetuses that will be affected by cancer, the young children that will die in increasing numbers from leukemia. 20 years from now, let us look at the cancer rate in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I just finished filming 5 months in St. George, Utah. 20 years ago, the above-ground atomic testings in Nevada played their deadly role in St. George, Utah. The tests were done when the wind was blowing not over Las Vegas because there are too many wealthy people who live there, but they would wait until the winds were blowing across Nevada into southern Utah, right over St. George. Who cares about St. George? In fact, it was said that these tests would be done so the wind would blow the radioactive clouds over uninhabited areas. I guess they don't count farmers, small businessmen, young children, housewives, just average citizens who began to notice their numbers dying in epidemic numbers from cancer and leukemia.
I have a real obsession about sanctity of life, and I think that nuclear, period, denies that, has no respect for life, that it can kill not just by mistake, but possibly on purpose, and kill hundreds of thousands of people, and leave the other ones who are left lying around dying of leukemia with their hair falling out. And how come it's reached a stage where we can blow away the mothers and the children and the families and everybody, boom, just like that, and somehow that's still okay in some people's minds.
You know about the risks of nuclear power?
No. Do you have time to explain them to me?
Not really, but there are a lot of serious risks to them. Yeah.
Well, I was reading in the paper. Matter of fact, today about somewhere in, was it Pennsylvania?
Yeah, they had a big leak.
Right, a leak. Did people die?
Nobody died directly. They can't tell directly, but maybe in 10 years there may be an epidemic of cancer in the area because of the radiation leak.
Oh, is that right? Well, if it's that, well, I thought they had it under control. It's supposed to be so set.
They've already leaked radiation from the plant.
Is that right?
It's been detected 16 miles away.
Oh, wow. Well, I think they should do some more research.
You better cover on me, baby. Cover on me right. Cover on your mama. She'll be back tomorrow night and I'm crying. Baby, don't you wanna go back to that lemon light city, sweet home Kokomo? Well, I got up this morning, I felt right from my shoes. Nobody that I must have had a nuclear blues. Got around for my shoes.
Doctored X-rays. X-rays falsified to hide the faulty welds in rods containing plutonium pellets. These X-rays disappeared with the rest of Karen's evidence from her car the night she died. Now we know that Kerr-McGee Corporation supplied plutonium rods to the firm of Babcock and Wilcox, a firm which designed nuclear power plants with names like 3 Mile Island and Rancho Seco. We know that there are indeed plutonium rods in the 3 Mile Island plants supplied by Kerr-McGee. An investigation is taking place to determine whether some of these rods are in reactor number 2, where the partial meltdown took place. Now we know what Karen Silkwood was on to!
I don't think very many people know who she was, that she was a worker at Kerr-McGee Nuclear Facility in Oklahoma, and that she was killed when she was traveling to meet with a union official and a reporter from the New York Times in Oklahoma to share with them documents that she had collected about unsafe practices at Kerr-McGee, and also questionable practices in the transferring of plutonium. Losses of plutonium were occurring in Kerr-McGee, and plutonium, of course, is the primary element of atomic bombs.
I think the nuclear weapons problem will be with us for a long time. Maybe these companies will be exporting dangerous reactors to other countries for a long time. I think the American people are going to use their democratic freedoms to protect themselves, and they are going to shut them down.
Now let the music keep our spirits high. Let the buildings keep our children dry. Let creation reveal its secrets by and by. By and by. When the light that's lost within us reaches the sky. Some of them were angry at the way the earth was abused by the men who learned how to forge her beauty into power, and they struggled to protect her from them, only to be confused by the magnitude of her
fury in the final hour. That's when the sand was gone and the time arrived. In the naked dawn, only a few survived. And in attempts to understand a thing so simple and so huge, believed that they were meant to live after the deluge. Now let the music keep our spirits high. Let the buildings keep our children dry. Let creation reveal its secrets by and by. By and by. When the light that's lost within us reaches the sky.